Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and this is the latest chapter of Tales from the Triverse. And today we have Revenge, Part 2. Brulia, Palinor, 3208, Bright Sun. She'd watched as her city was mutilated. From the streets of the Eastern Mesa, she'd witnessed the torture inflicted upon her people. Multiple indignities and assaults, one after another, the trespasser from Max Earth demonstrating its total disregard for life. The chaotic cruelty was calculated for maximum suffering, and there was nothing that the combined forces of the City Guard and the Akehu could do as a counter. Princess Darila Baltine crouched on the tiled roof of a church, the palace behind her, and watched the gods engage in battle with a machine from another world. The violation of the city was momentarily paused, and all she wanted to do was return to the epicenter to save as many as she could. The violation of the city had momentarily paused, and all she wanted to do was return to the epicenter to save as many as she could. They had been beyond the bounds of the wide area spells, but had seen and felt the impact, had seen hundreds of people dragged into the sky and dropped back to Earth. Her father had played his part. He'd made this happen, had made decision after decision that had led to the destruction of the city he was supposed to lead and protect. The exalted lord of Brulia, the learned chancellor, Everard Baltine of Fountain University, responsible for the fall of the city. There would be no forgiving the betrayal. It would cascade through history as a shame on the Baltine family name that would never be forgiven. Her father had conspired to build the ship that tormented the city, had made pacts with foreign powers, had brought soldiers and machines of death to Palinor, all in service of consolidating his own power. He deserved no chance for atonement. She would take all of it from him. His palace, his money, his followers, his power, his magic, his family. And when he had nothing left, she would take his life. She would be the one to execute vengeance on behalf of the people of Brulia. It had been a long road to get back to where she'd begun, but the path was clear. "When we go in," Christian said, standing beside her on the rooftop, "let me handle Baltine. We can't afford hesitation." She turned to him, her stare burning into his eyes. At a whim, with a few words and a flick of her wrist, she could untangle some neurons, give him a seizure. She could pinch shut the carotid artery and watch his brain shut down. She could poke a few microscopic holes in critical arteries and kill him from internal bleeding. Instead, she simply said, "I won't hesitate. Is everything ready?" Theirs was a small group, her, Christian, half a dozen Akehu fighters. Captain Rexon had refused to send any city guard to help, which was probably for the best. The last thing they wanted was to have to look over their shoulders the whole mission. Across the city, towering above it, an ancient god swung a sword and missed. The tremor could be felt from where they were, knocking Christian to his knees and shaking the foundations of the church. "This needs to end," Darila said. "Then let's end it," the Akehu leader nodded, signalling to the others. She marvelled, as always, at his ability to inspire and command others, at his fierce determination and unwavering commitment. It had brought him this far, would have ended the war swiftly and without unnecessary suffering if the Max Earth machine had not arrived. They would deal with the spaceship. First, her father. Dust was still thick in the air from the Goliath sword's impact as the gatekeeper, Drauk, held up their hand. They'd recognized her on approach, which is why she'd insisted on being at the head of the party. Their nostrils flared with excitement and not a little trepidation. "Princess," they said, an open-mouthed smile revealing rows of sharp teeth. "I'd heard you were dead." "Then there were rumors." "I'm here to see my father." She bowed a little to the Koth. They'd always been good to her. "We need to come through. Will you let us pass?" Drauk looked to her, then to Christian and the Akehu fighters. "It's going to be trouble, then." "Most likely." She was tense, ready with a spell. Drauk was fast. She remembered being chased by them around the palace gardens as a child. I was told to stay at my post, said Drauk, even while all the Mid-Earth soldiers withdrew back to the portal station. And then that black ship showed up, and then all those awful things started happening. Darilla and her party were advancing slowly, cautiously, as if approaching a wild animal. Princess Darilla, Drauk continued, how is it all going to end? She glanced back at the city, still burning from the attacks. The spaceship and the god were almost too small to be seen, pinpricks high above in the sky. The palace was before them, inside of which was the architect of the city's destruction. She clenched her jaw. In fire. Moving through the grounds was a trivial matter, their progress unimpeded. Other than Drauk on the gate, the palace seemed deserted. Either they're all waiting for us inside, Christian muttered, or nobody's home. The man was still there, Darilla knew. He had to be. Everard Baltine was many things, but he was not a coward and would not run. There was too much pride, and he would deny the very possibility of his fate until the last moment. Christian was right, though. The gardens were deserted, and the palace proved to be equally empty. They moved through unaccosted, each of them becoming increasingly expectant of a trap. Their explorations led them inevitably to the great hall, the colonnaded central chamber of the palace, where she'd attended countless dinner parties. She remembered leading Lola through the palace when she first arrived, during the party, recalled her amusement at Lola's blushed embarrassment when surrounded by such open displays of desire. There was much that was different about Brulia compared with London. Lola was out in the city still, hopefully at the university helping Yana complete the spell. It seemed like a pointless gesture when there was an alien spaceship unleashing terror on the city, but the plan was the plan. It had made sense to split the teams as they had, but Darilla wished for nothing more than to be with the woman that she loved. Sat on the grand chair in the centre of the hall was her father. The tables and chairs were cleared away to the edges of the room, leaving him a lonely figure. He was slumped to the side, leaning heavily on one elbow, a glass of red wine in hand. Torches burned brightly along the walls. "You've ruined everything, of course," he said. "I never wanted to have children, you know. Your brothers died before you were born, and I was almost grateful. Everyone has abandoned me, you see. Matheson got himself killed. I hear that was down to your lot too. The last message I received from London sounded dire, and now here you are, to finish the job." Darilla said nothing. What was there left to say? Christian looked to her, for once waiting for someone else to speak. "We were securing your futures, ironically," Baltine said, "freeing you all from the shackles of the Triverse. Altruistic utopian technopopulism from one dimension, capitalist degeneration from the other, undermining our society, our traditions at every turn, pressing us all beneath the heel of unitary singular thinking. The Triverse was not a victory for multicultural diversity, but a tragic homogenizing of humanity, a hegemony of bland normalcy." He threw the glass to the floor. "We wanted none of it." "You speak of humanity, Chancellor," Christian said, stepping forward, "but I am no human." "I was not talking to you, slave." Christian smiled. "Regardless, it is you who is now my prisoner." He turned to the others. "Shackle him." "No." The word was quiet at first. "No, no, no. I don't think so." Each syllable was louder than the last, and Baltine sprang to his feet. It was only then that she noticed he was clad from head to foot, in a form of armour, though not like any she'd seen before. It was different in design to any Palanese style, making him taller than a normal man, his arms augmented with some form of external skeleton. Two of the Akehu warriors ran in before she could warn them. Baltine hit one with a punch that cratered his skull. The other was smeared across 10 feet of floor, like jam over warm toast. The suit was combining with Baltine's own wielding abilities, a Max Earth gift from his former conspirators, no doubt. He turned and strode towards the rest of the party, who raised weapons and charged in despite being inadequate to the task. Baltine put a hand to his throat and clutched at it then turned towards his daughter, eyes full of accusation. Darrella stood with one hand outstretched, thumb and forefinger together. She held tight, felt the constricted vessel. Seconds passed. Baltine took a couple of staggering steps towards her, and she felt him trying to trigger a spell, but the thoughts were fading from his mind. He collapsed to the floor, the metal armour hitting the marbled surface with a crash. Darrella kept holding the artery, pinching it shut, halting the flow of blood to his brain. She held it, and held it. Christian came towards her, his knives still drawn. Darrella. She held it. She held it until his body ceased twitching, until she could sense no electrical activity between his synapses, until his heart slowed and stopped. Then she held it some more. Darrella. Christian's hand touched her shoulder. It is done. Then a light enveloped Christian. His eyes flashed red, and Darrella was thrown across the room by multiple shockwaves. Her head hit the floor, and for several moments she lost a true sense of where she was and what she was doing. As her vision cleared and the throbbing in her head subsided, she saw Christian and the other Akehurain Fa staggering about the hall, blood dripping from their eyes and ears. Closer to the grand chair lay the body of her father, Chancellor of Fountain University and Lord of the city-state of Brulia. Darrella Baltine felt nothing. Thanks for listening. What a cheery chapter. You can leave comments, subscribe, find lots more over at my newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com.